All right. Well, this is now episode 3. I don't even know
Yep.
what our intro is. Like, do we have catchphrases or things? Cameron, we're missing catchphrases, man.
So it's funny you bring that up because I was actually practicing like hand gestures before, like what hand
And
gestures are we gonna do?
like
And I was
finger
doing like
pointing. Like, what are you
hello
talking
with
about?
my fingers. We could do like a V. I don't know. We'll
Yeah,
think
I
of
don't know.
something.
That comes off like more like a Star Trek Spock thing, like the.
We'll be like the verdict. I don't
Right.
know.
We'll come up with a really good catchy intro thing, but I guess the best thing with any intro is to reintroduce ourselves. Which my name's
Yeah.
Kyle. I love video games. I grew up in a sports world, but kind of got converted into tech, and always been playing video games though, and specifically with stories. I love the stories of video games. It's my favorite thing.
Yep. And I am Cameron, and same with Kyle. I love playing video games. And I am just really excited to be talking with Kyle about this. This is something that we said this last time, but we've just been talking about this for a long time, and it's finally happening. And every week we do this, I just get more and more excited. So
It's so fun,
I'm
right? I guess
thrilled
it's just
to be
something to
here.
look forward to start
Yeah.
recording them.
I mean,
like it a
every
lot.
week after we record, I'm just thinking like, that was a lot of fun. Like
yeah.
I'm having a lot more fun than I thought I would.
No, it's good.
Let me just put it that way.
One thing that we do at least have down packed right now on our 3rd episode is we do have a tradition where we do like My Life Has Been a Lie, which I need to admit I botched last episode where I was trying to be a little different and be like, yeah, this isn't really my life is a lie moment. Tell me a moment where, like you thought something was true, but you found out it wasn't. Yeah, that's a my life is a lie moment. There was no difference in my question whatsoever, like at all. So I do like this little tidbit we've got is we start every episode with my life has been a lie. So for you, Cameron, what is a my life has been a lie moment that you'd like to share today?
Okay, I'm gonna need you to act surprised, like I didn't tell you this earlier.
Right.
But so my life is a lie moment. So Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. There's a character Moaning Myrtle, and in the movie, there's an actress who plays Moaning Myrtle. Moaning Myrtle, a 14-year-old Hogwarts student. And I found out years and years later that the actress was 35 years old who played Moaning Myrtle.
Was she 35? I thought she was older. Was she?
I Googled it and it said 35. She could have been older. I don't know. But regardless,
She's
more
older,
than
yeah.
double the age.
Definitely not, whatever age she's supposed to be when she passed away. Which, being a Harry Potter nerd, I should know this. How old is Moaning Myrtle supposed to be when she died? Like, what year?
Yeah, Google said 14, but I don't know.
Yeah. But
what year did
I did know that one. She was an older actress. And I don't know, I wasn't very young when I saw it, though. But, like, I don't think anyone was, like, tricked or confused that she's this older person. I think what was so shocking is what you just brought up was how old she was, though. Like, to me, that's always shocking. Like, she's in her 30s. She definitely didn't look like she's a 13-year-old or a 14-year-old how she's supposed to be, but yeah, she's in her 30s.
I think when you put double pigtails on a girl, they just automatically look really young.
Love it. Did you like Chamber of Secrets, the movie? Like, where would you rank Chamber of Secrets for you?
Yes. Oh, that's a good question. One of my favorite. I've told you this before, but I really liked Harry Potter 1 and 2, the movies, because they were so faithful to the books.
Right.
And I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed all the movies, but I really liked the first 2 especially. And I think another thing I really liked is it has the original Dumbledore actor. And I think he did a much better job than the new one.
Like two different styles, right? And as far as like book version Dumbledore, I think that actor was definitely the better Dumbledore, but sadly passed away. They got too good of an actor who was almost the right age, and just sadly passed away. I actually went through a thing of I didn't really like number 2, the book. Actually, when I read it, I mean, I liked all the Harry Potter books and I liked all the Harry Potter movies, but if I was ranking them, number 2 was usually at the bottom for me. But for some reason, as I got older, number 2 rose for me, book wise and movie wise. It just, it kept going up. And Gilderoy Lockhart is just phenomenal. Like, that actor is so amazing. Like,
yeah, he's one of my favorite actors. Like,
he's
top
like,
notch.
Fantastic. So my life has been a lie moment is, do you know Leroy Jenkins? The very common, like, I don't know, like, what do you call them, GIFs or YouTube clips, whatever. Like, do you have any idea what I'm talking when I say Leroy Jenkins?
Like, I've heard the name, but I don't think I know what you're talking about.
So this is like before YouTube days, I think, where it was on World of Warcraft website for like movie clips, and it is a very popular audio clip and video clip of the concept is in World of Warcraft you have to do raids and you have to do it as a team, and so like they're discussing if they even want to go do this one raid, like, or kill this one boss because it just takes too long. But they claim that this guy Leroy Jenkins is his username. He has to do it because he needs something from the boss or whatever. And so they spend like 2 or 3 minutes with a plan. Like, this guy is calling out like shots for people, like what they're supposed to go do. There's a plan in place, and he goes, so everyone knows what they're supposed to do. And the character Leroy Jenkins just screams out his own name as like a battle cry and rushes into this raid and gets everyone killed. And it's just been a popular audio clip for years and years. I just found out like last week that it was a setup. It was a lie. Like, it was they scripted it all. Some people say that it was supposed to be a reenactment. Like, they didn't get it on camera. Like, it actually did happen, but they didn't record it. So they reenacted the whole thing just to like get the the audio clip. And then others like saying, no, the whole thing was just scripted. And that was like just massively disappointing to me because I don't know, with everything in like with video and YouTube things, I don't trust anything today. But at least like the old stuff, I feel like that was real, and apparently not. So that was my life has been a lie, that this battle cry of Leroy Jenkins was scripted. Like, after all the time, it was scripted.
Well, I never knew about that, so news to me also. Yeah, I never got to play World of Warcraft, so I missed out on that whole era.
I never did either. I've played a lot of MMOs. Never I think I attempted it once, like a day. What stopped me was it was like it's like $15 a month to play, and so that always stopped me to like really get into it. But I'm a hypocrite because I paid like $15 a month to play Star Wars: The Old Republic. But World of Warcraft was when I was a teenager, and then I just didn't have my own money to pay for those accounts. And then as an adult, that's when I was like I was able to go play Star Wars: The Old Republic, and I oddly have gotten into many hours of MMOs, like a lot of hours in MMOs, and I don't recommend them to a lot of people, but there's some that are just like really good. Star Wars: The Old Republic is one I do recommend. Guild Wars 2 is another great one. Like, there's a lot of good MMOs, but it was definitely like a fad. Like, they're definitely not as popular anymore of a style of video game anymore. What basically replaced it is live service games. Like, live service games today is like the new, in my opinion, like the MMO that businesses are trying to achieve.
That's a really good point, honestly. The big ones I played was Destiny and Destiny 2.
Yeah, like, do you call that an MMO? Like, is that because that's not the traditional MMO style of World of Warcraft, you go and you have to go kill a bandit 10 times for various reasons, or go pick 10 flowers and you don't have a reason why, and you go back to the person. Where I feel like that style of video game, it's a lot better at, like, with Destiny 2, there's more of a purpose of why you're doing things, and you don't have to have someone with you, except for there are raids. I get that, but it's not, I don't know, I guess it's just different. How would you classify it? Do you think if it's a traditional MMO?
Yeah, I've never played any of the traditional ones, so I guess I can't really compare. But I mean, there's a lot of like loot gathering and like fight the same strike over and over so you can get like the best roll on your handgun or whatever. So I don't know.
You're the one who taught me that too. I missed that. You were like showing me like what you have to go through to go get the like a certain weapon. and that was a lot more exciting to me than it was like these
Yeah.
other MMOs. And I think Destiny 2 did it like the best way, where I didn't feel that it was as obnoxious as other MMOs are. However, I will say that it did get so repetitive for me, and on certain seasons especially, that I'm killing the same, like same creatures over and over, like the Void. Like you're always killing like the Void over and over again. And it got kind of too easy. But then I love the aspect where there's what's it called? What's the game we always played in Destiny 2? It starts with an M.
Just like the
Mercenary? Is it not?
No, it's just like the multiplayer, right?
Yeah, what's it called though? There's like three different. There's a bunch of different multiplayer. What was the most fun we had?
Was it Control or Gambit?
Was it Crucible?
Yeah, Crucible. That's just like what they call all the multiplayer.
Yeah, okay. Well, there was a specific one that you and I always played that I thought it was a lot of fun. I'll think of it in a second. But anyways,
okay.
It was. It's been a while since you and I played. What has it been, like 2 years?
Yeah, it's been like 2-3 years. It's been it's been a while. I haven't been active on that in quite a while, but my buddy wants to start again, so I might jump on this week.
Yeah, I do like Destiny 2. Like I like the story. The voice actor who I don't want to do any spoilers though.
Peter Dinklage.
So what's his name?
I'm just kidding. He was in like the original.
Well, there's the voice actors the one who passed away, who was on the he was in John Wick.
Right. Yes. I can't remember his name, but
isn't one of the characters named Six in the game?
Cade Six.
Cade, that's what I'm trying to think of. You don't want to spoil it. There's a great story arc for Cade. And his voice actor, he's a really famous actor. Like he's in the TV show The Rookie. He's in Castle. Which that was another one of those TV shows that I hated, but I continued to watch when we were working together. I was like, this is not a good show, but I'm just going to keep watching.
You're big on those.
But that was, I really appreciate that out of Destiny 2, which was just a lot of really great storytelling. But then I feel like they had dips where you had to go pay $20, and it was a storyline I didn't necessarily care for. But I think Destiny 2 did a really good job. I like the story aspects of Destiny 2.
Lance Reddick, that was his name, right?
Yeah, I'm very confident that's his name.
Yeah.
That's sadly the actor who passed away. He was the
he's the Titan Vanguard guy,
right? He's the Titan Vanguard. He's the main guy you talk to when you first get in Destiny 2. Is kind of seems like to be the guy in charge or whatever. He was just a phenomenal actor. Really sad that he passed away. I was really shocked when that happened, and it was so odd that it kind of got timed. I don't want to be insensitive about this, but it got timed luckily in John Wick 4 that he passed away in John Wick 4 and things, and I thought that was so odd where Star Wars has the opposite problem. They always seem to be killing off characters, but sadly the other actors did pass away that were supposed to be living, like Princess Leia. And then John Wick, it was the other way around. And so very interesting, really great voice actor, definitely going to be missed. Let's get back into Destiny 2. Destiny 2 was a great game.
Yeah, we should jump on.
Yeah.
Well, awesome, man. So this week, I think we wanted to talk about stories in video games, right?
Yeah, and that's what we should do is at the beginning is do a little intro. Explain hey, what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, so I guess to intro that, we wanted to talk about the importance of stories in video games, and also get a little bit into remake culture. We're seeing a lot of remakes of old games, and I've got some opinions on it, good and bad. But let's start with stories. Kyle had a lot of good opinions about stories in video games and the importance they play, and I'll let you jump into it, and I'll ask you questions as I think of them.
Yeah, so I don't want to get too controversial today, which is the big controversy right now. I'm just going to dive into it, which is Dragon Age Veilguard is being a very controversial game right now for various different reasonings. A lot of people didn't like the DEI inclusion in the game, and kind of put blame onto that. I don't think that the problem with Dragon Age is that's its core problem or anything like that. What I believe is the actual storytelling in that game is subpar. And it's very surprising to me that BioWare needed a win, where BioWare had a pretty much of a colossal failure with Anthem, and
Yeah,
it needed
remember that.
it needed a win. And something that BioWare's MO for years has been is storytelling. The game mechanics were never the best with BioWare, but it was always the fact that you have such in-depth storytelling and you had narrative branching when it came to the choices you made, and the choices you made matter. Like BioWare was the pioneer to that. So all these great games we have later down the road, think of like The Witcher 3. If BioWare didn't establish that in the early 2000s, we wouldn't have such a great game like The Witcher 3. Like, they really paved that way for me. And Dragon Age, it is a huge IP, and it is such a phenomenal story. But Dragon Age Veilguard, it is clear to me that you can objectively say this writing is not top notch, especially the amount of money that went into this game, which is $200 million is what Dragon Age put into this game. And they needed this one. It wasn't just 200 million and it's just one game that they're shoveling out. BioWare needed a win, in my opinion, at least. And I don't think that Dragon Age Veilguard had a good enough story to support that, which is crazy because almost every other aspect of the game is really good. The combat system, I thought, was really great. The mechanics of it was really good. It was a little boring of how you can, select one of your teammates to go and attack, to help on an attack. I don't think that mechanic was all that great, but it was still a lot of fun. And someone I was listening to compared it to God of War, and I kind of agree with it. It was just like you can easily get through, have a lot of fun mechanics. It kind of surprising, like Hogwarts Legacy, I felt actually had really good combat mechanics, something that you wouldn't think that a Harry Potter game would have. But Dragon Age, like the graphics, people had opinions about the graphics where it wasn't as grungy as they were kind of hoping for with Dragon Age story. Like they wanted more blood, they wanted more like chaos in that aspect, something that Baldur's Gate 3 provided. But it was still a beautiful game, and from what I've seen, from my experience and what I've seen from other people, there's not any bugs. Like there's not like a lot of like game breaking mechanics because the game wasn't finished in time. So it seems like they really hit on every single aspect of this game, but the story is just lacking. Like it's just objectively bad. The dialogue between characters. I'm not talking about the topics of like DEI or whatever, because I know that's a big YouTube topic right now. I'm just literally talking about how characters interact with each other. It reminds me, and this is going to irritate a lot of people, I know, but it reminds me of the prequels of Star Wars, which is really good concept, right? Like you've got this, like it's George Lucas's Star Wars, really interesting concept of like, hey, what about let's tell the story of like, Anakin, how he becomes Vader, that type of thing. Not to say Dragon Age, the Veilguard is a prequel or anything like that, but just you have a concept that's really interesting. But the choice of dialogue and how you're executing that, like when Star Wars, like I hate sand, like that terrible dialogue. That's what the Veilguard. It was just bad dialogue, like all the way through. I'm like, why was this approved? Like, why wasn't there just some reworks done on the script? And I really think that this is what's missing in some of these massive AAA video games is for whatever reason, the concept that you don't need to have a good foundation in your story is what's missing in what I see games that are really successful versus games that are not successful. Baldur's Gate 3, phenomenal story, phenomenal dialogue. It's the best voice acting I've ever heard in a video game is Baldur's Gate 3. BioWare, from their history before, that's what was so good about their video games. It's like you were just so interested in the characters and the choices you can make. Even in Star Wars of the Knights of the Old Republic, the voice acting wasn't great in Knights of the Old Republic, but it was still just the amount of depth you can go with the characters. And the twist ending, like I said, that was one of my most like wow moments in video game history, was BioWare's Knights of the Old Republic. It was just an incredible twist in that video game, and it was just really disappointing with BioWare of they dropped the ball on Dragon Age. And I'm looking at other video games, like I've been playing Marvel Midnight Sun. And I think a lot of these games that aren't having that success that I think they were hoping to have, the common denominator here is you lack a great story. You lack like the writing of your story. Your concept might be really good, but just the writing in your story is important. The story itself is important, and I think it's really lacking, in my opinion.
Yeah. I've never actually played a BioWare game, so I can't compare, the old Dragon Age games versus the new ones, but that really paints a picture for me. And I really like your analogy about Star Wars, even though I think the prequels are works of art. So, but
do you love the prequels? I didn't know that. Do you like the prequels a lot?
Oh yeah, I was young when they came out, so I really liked them growing up. So I didn't realize they were bad till I was like a teenager, and then I already had nostalgia for them.
So I probably would have been the exact same thing. I don't want to say it was my issue. I went to the theater with my dad, and my dad he loves the original trilogy, and he would just roll his eyes so hard I could hear it in the theaters, and I was like, oh, okay, so my dad doesn't like this, so I don't like this. And that's definitely, as a little kid, that's what kind of formed my opinion. And then it wasn't until I started getting into the Clone Wars, which is what happened with a lot of people, like the animated series, is they started connecting the actual story of what you really were missing about that character arc with Anakin, that I went back to watch the films, and I just, for some reason, I give it a pass. And so, yeah, I'm definitely one of those generic people who didn't really like the prequels, but after watching Clone Wars, I thought, prequels are awesome. Like, such a great story.
Yeah. Well, when it comes to video game stories, I was thinking recently about From Software games, specifically like Elden Ring, for example. And it doesn't really do storytelling in the traditional sense. You kind of have like a generic story. You start the game and it's like, become the Elden Lord.
Right.
And that's kind of like what you're presented with. And, there's a few small cutscenes and character dialogues, but I was trying to think about like what made those games feel so great and like the story so intriguing, even though it feels like the story is not really there at times. And you actually pointed out, and I had heard this before, but that the story was written beforehand. Like, who is it? George R.R. Martin wrote the story, and
he didn't write it, but he definitely gave his opinions. Like, he was a part of the actual.
I think what he did was he wrote like the lore from like thousands of years back, and then From Software took his lore and they were like, we're going to make it set in whatever modern day is. But I think what makes it feel so good is there's a story crafted and they build the game around this story. And even though they're not really directly telling the story a lot of the time, it just feels so rich with details.
Oh, yeah.
It feels like environmental storytelling is how I'd say it. You read the weapon descriptions, you read the armor descriptions, you go talk to a random NPC somewhere and they say like 3 lines of dialogue and the story just kind of pieces together bit by bit. And some people don't like that, but I find it so compelling.
Yeah, I think the comparison I think with that was, for me, like Zelda Breath of the Wild. It's not this exact same, because From Software's game of Elden Ring, exactly what you're saying, which is if you have a backstory behind that video game, that means, okay, you got a deadline. It's week 13 that we're supposed to get done by week 16, and you have to put in a few different swords by this deadline or whatever as a game developer. Well, yeah, which sword definitely can't be there, and which color design can't be going, like, that's not with the aesthetics, because you have all this lore background, knowing the story of what the game needs to be, even though that story is not being told in the video game. Okay, this is the style it has to be, and I know that this sword would work, but this sword wouldn't work, even though they're both swords, right? Like, you can actually get into that form of detail, and it all just fits beautifully. And so if you want to come up with, let's say, a creepy looking character, which for me, I don't know what your creepiest character in Elden Ring is. It's definitely those those women at the top, like left of the map, and they're just like dancing oddly in like England, like creep
On
me
the
out like
plateau.
more
Yeah.
than anything, right? But it fit. So like if you were to assign, okay, I got to come up with a creepy character, it's not that you're just coming, okay, well, let me think of like a Tim Burton style. No, like it has to fit, right? The lore, it has to fit the style of the game and everything. Even though that story really hasn't been verbally told to the player, it because you have that background and that established lore, you can create that. So for me, Breath of the Wild, it's the same thing where sure, we get a story in Breath of the Wild because you can go find like 12 different like video clips that you're supposed to find of like what was the past with Zelda, like what was she going through, and it's actually kind of confusing because you don't find them in order usually, but it still all fits where this is the feel of this game of what is Hyrule, right? Like what is the importance of Hyrule, like what does this mean to these town people, like what, like this desert area, what does it mean to them, type thing. It's just, even though you don't have that story presented to you as a player fully, like they do it a little bit more in Breath of the Wild, but definitely from Elden Ring, it's definitely not told to you. Because you have a story established and a lore established, written like just correctly and written in a like with passion, you definitely have this world building element that's so much easier to create, I think, instead of just what would be a fun like in between worlds fantasy game? Well, just go create it. No, that wasn't their attitude. It was, let's create a good lore foundation and we can build upon that. Same thing with Hyrule with Breath of the Wild.
Yeah. I know you haven't played any of the other From Software games, but I played Bloodborne and Dark Souls 1 and 2, and they very much feel the same way. I think From Software just does a really good job doing that like lore setup. It's what like keeps drawing me back to their games.
Yeah, like the complaint is
again
From Software. It's the complaint. It's never, oh, I don't like the story here, or like the complaint has always been the difficulty, right? Like for a lot of people, like the game's too hard. So when someone says, yeah, it's a Souls-like game, maybe you might roll your eyes when someone is comparing, a Souls-like game or something like that with another video game. Really, what you're saying with that, it's a difficult boss level that you have to go fight someone on, right? And you probably will die over and over again. That's what people mean when they say it's a Souls-like game. But you never really hear people complain about, it just seemed out of place. I was just kind of bored of the world. I didn't really care for it. No, that is not anything that people say, because I think they do a phenomenal job at, like you said, environmental storytelling. Like there's an established lore there. So even though there's not like dialogue of a script that people are reading out or cutscenes that you're listening to all the time, there are some. Like it's not like it's like non-existent, that there's not any cutscenes or verbal dialogue, but it's you have to go find those stories, and you have to like almost, you can be who you want to be a little bit of like, okay, what is this world like? Let me go discover. I think it's really interesting in Elden Ring that your choices could be a samurai. Like that's one of your choices. You could be to some person with a pot over their head, or like a slave looking type person. Like it's just an extreme like range of different people that you can go choose to be. And you want to go be a wizard and go like be what they call an astrologer, like go do that, go be that person, which that was my first character, by the way. And I later learned it made the game a little too, not easy, but like I feel like I missed out on like what the samurai offers, which would be a lot more fun with like dual swords or like two-handed swords or anything like that. But no,
those games I definitely prefer melee builds over magic builds.
Mm-hmm.
And people love magic builds. I just don't. I'm not that person.
I'm the opposite though. I always want to do magic builds. I always want to get like, okay, I kind of missed out on the Dungeons and Dragons like phase. I never got into that. So I was like, I always been more interested in, like, okay, Harry Potter nerd. Okay, like what's like a wizard build? Okay, what can I go do with the magic type thing? That was always like more interesting to me. But I'm learning that's not always the best choice. And I think the Elden Ring, I realized like, the sword wielding character is a little bit more fun. Even though like maybe the magic build is a little bit easier to get through the game, but like you miss out on that fun experience of like learning how to deal with swords. It's more satisfying, the kills and stuff like that. But I've always been a magic build, but after playing Elden Ring, I've realized maybe don't always have that be your go-to for every selection you chose.
Okay, I gotta backtrack a second because you mentioned how nobody complains about Elden Ring's storytelling. I've actually seen a few comments online where some people hate it. They just absolutely hate it. They're like, I don't want to learn the story like by getting all this obscure lines here and there. I don't want to read like the item descriptions. And a lot of people get frustrated because I feel like with From Software, you have to look stuff up online a lot to figure it out. It doesn't like, they're not easy games. They don't give you like a play by play, like you should do this, you should do that. They just like really let you figure it out on your own. So I know me and you love that, but I've seen some people who really don't like it.
Well, yeah, let me backtrack a little bit too, which I don't think I meant that no one complains about the story, because I do know that people definitely complain about, like, even myself, I wasn't all that excited and realized of like, I'm playing this, okay, where am I? I have to go figure this all out, like, what does this mean? I think there is, if people complain about that, that's a valid complaint. You don't like that style of storytelling in a video game. You want to come to a video game where you don't have to do that type of work to learn about the story. Then yeah, something like God of War is much for you, where it's you are going through a path and the story is being presented to you in that way. The Witcher 3, even though it's an open world, you get your choice of the story and it's very clear what is happening, why you're doing it, and where you're going, that type of thing. I think it's a valid criticism. What I meant, though, was when people don't really have a complaint of the story, it's not like when you learn about the story of Elden Ring, you're not like, oh, that's dumb. Like yeah, like this is kind of a easy line.
That's a valid point. Yeah. Yeah, I just wanted to bring that up though, because
it's a good point though. Like I said, I don't think there's anything wrong with complaining about entertainment. I really don't. And I'm one of the few people. I'm going to say something crazy. Are you ready? I don't think Star Wars fans are toxic. I really don't. I don't think Star Wars fans are toxic. I understand that me as a Star Wars fan, we're harder to please, and maybe we nitpick things maybe compared to someone else or something like that. You know who nitpicks a lot though too? Harry Potter fans. We were so mad that Harry didn't have green eyes in the movie. Like, do you remember like how much people were just mad about that because they didn't have Daniel Radcliffe? So what?
What color is his eyes?
So it's a big thing. Do you not know this? Like the whole like what people are mad about with like Daniel Radcliffe is he originally has blue eyes, so he's supposed to have green eyes because the whole thing about it is that hey, you look just like your father except you got your mother's eyes. They said that over and over and over again in the story. Well, the thing is, Daniel Radcliffe's got blue eyes, and he's supposed to have green eyes, and I think I ever got that. Yeah, so it was a complaint. It was online, like everyone like point that out type of a thing, and I just think that like in any IP, especially in science fiction or fantasy, people are just passionate about their entertainment and they like it. I don't think there's anything wrong to complain about the form you want your entertainment to be, and I also don't think the answer is just simply, well, if you don't like it, then don't go watch it. No, that's not the case either, because you've already established a love for these type of things. So if you are playing Elden Ring and this is just like you spent $70 on it and it wasn't what you were expecting, yeah, that's a valid complaint, and maybe in feedback to From Software or anything like that. However, I don't think someone who's complaining about that is the majority, and that From Software has already established this is who we are as a storytelling video game entertainment system, and so therefore I don't think it's going to make them budge on how they're going to do it, because they're also very successful and there is a group of people that's what they do like. And so if you don't like that, then that sucks that you don't get to experience the same joy that maybe you and I have with Elden Ring. But there are so many other forms of entertainment that I personally want to go help you out with. I want to go help you find what's that story that's going to be really good for you. Like I said, God of War was probably going to be a little bit better for you if you're looking for that more linear storyline of dialogue explaining more things to you. I think over the top is like Ubisoft does a terrible job at over the top explaining things to you. I hate how Ubisoft goes about their video games and things, but it's just I think
they get a lot of grief recently.
say that again. I didn't hear you.
Oh, they get a lot of grief recently.
They deserve it too. I hate Ubisoft
I think
so
they
bad.
deserved it.
I hate Ubisoft. I am. Oh my gosh! Like,
okay, have you seen that thing where they said if Elden Ring was made by Ubisoft?
Yes.
And they have like all the UI on it, and it's like
you look at the map and there's all these little different things, like exactly where to go, and like all these
icons.
Right,
yeah. Okay, I saw this video. I should send it to you, but one of the best parts it did is, you start Elden Ring and there's like the tree sentinel right in front of you, and you're not supposed to fight him because it's supposed to teach you like you can come back to stuff. It has the guy walk up and he like hits it one time and it dies. Like it was made by Ubisoft.
One I heard was like I think it was supposed to be Geralt, and he's like, I should go to that fireplace. Hey, there's a fireplace over there. Let me go walk over to that fireplace. And like, just like talk, the voice in your head, but it's talking out loud thing. It's just
like telling you what to do.
Yeah, exactly what to do. Like, let me figure it out. Okay. Like, maybe I don't want to go to the fireplace right now. Let me go explore a little bit or anything, which again, that's where I go back to. I really think a masterpiece of a game is Breath of the Wild, because there's very little like hand holding, but it's still not over the top difficult like Elden Ring or From Software games, where like my wife and my daughter play Breath of the Wild and they love it, and it allows you to be the engineer that's in you to go figure things out on your own and to go like, okay, how do I want to accomplish this, and maybe I don't want to accomplish this the exact same way. Like I love that aspect, and that's where I don't understand Ubisoft's attempt of like babying their players. I really don't. I don't get it. I don't understand what that market is for or who it's for. We don't need it in video games. There's too many other, if you wanted that to be that much babied in video games, there's too many other games on the Switch you can go find that are just nice and cute and go do it yourself. And but large IPs, like when Ubisoft takes over Star Wars and they do Outlaws, no, it is not fun, entertaining to have a voiceover to tell me exactly where to go and where to move, and I hate it.
Well, I know why they do it. They're trying to reach the most broad audience, and the most broad audience includes people who don't play video games very much and like might not want to play a hard video game. And so if you're reaching the most broad audience, a lot of the times people who play a lot more video games, they're just going to be really turned off by it. And that's what you see with like Star Wars Outlaws, just like you said.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of clips and it looks like the enemy AI is just not good. And
they did an update of 1.4 and it's not better in my opinion. Like it's not like it's somewhat better. So one of the biggest things that they did was they force you to do stealth mode on certain missions. And they took that away. There's some aspects where you have to do stealth for the story in it, in itself, but like the majority of the missions now, you don't need to do stealth. Sure, it's better, but like I didn't find the AI like much different at all. Like I guess maybe I didn't really notice it when first playing it, but like I didn't see a lot of like over the top dumb AI, which I've seen that on YouTube clips where like the AI is just really that dumb and like you throw a rock and they don't move or anything like that, and you're standing right in front of them. It isn't until like you pull out a gun and start shooting them in the face is when they wake up and say like, "Oh, you're in front of me." It's just So what did you say?
I saw this one where like there's two like patrols and they go and like kill one of the guards, and then they're like the players hiding, and then the one guard sees like the other guard is dead, and they're like, who's there? And they're like walking around, and I'm like thinking about it. I'm like, in real life, if you just saw like my friend, like who's also a guard, is now just dead next to me, and like I did not see him die, like I would be freaking out.
Dude, I'm getting cover, around, I'm hiding, I'm running, like I'm like I understand maybe my responsibility is to be a guard, so therefore I'm going into like defensive mode, right? Okay, someone's out to kill us, like this isn't just a normal day. Let me hide behind something, let's be on my guard. But yeah, like he's looking around like, who stole my potato chips? Like, where is it around here? Like, I know I left my keys somewhere, like that's the look they have. Yeah, really dumb. Yeah. But yeah, I get the point you're making though, which is Ubisoft's trying to get to a broad audience. I disagree. If I was a businessman, I don't think that's how you do it. And I think, again, based off of history with Ubisoft, it's not working. Like, that is not how you do it. So I actually want to present a question to you. You and I, let's say we're going to go start our own video game industry, and we're going to go develop a video game. What is the correct approach of the target audience we're going for? Like, how would you go about it in designing the video game to make sure you hit the most amount of buyers is what we're looking for, obviously.
Yeah, I think the way you hit the most amount of buyers is to fill like a specific niche genre. And so you see games like From Software games, they sell so well is because they're hitting this genre of Souls-like, and some people just love that genre. And so if a new Souls-like comes out from Software, they're going to get it. And so I feel like for me, I just kind of the first areas I'd look at is what niche do we want to fill, and let's start looking in that area.
Okay, so I have a similar opinion, and I think it's exactly what you're saying, which is when you try to broaden your scope of your audience, you're going to thin it out, and you're not going to get enough sales. And I think that's what, like you explained with Ubisoft, is yeah, sure. Like, let's take Horizon. Horizon was a great game. I like the story a lot and everything like that. But the fact that the amount of hand holding, and I open up my map in Horizon, and there's an icon flooding the map, and I can't even see where my character is because there's different icons telling me where to go. That it just turns me off in that aspect. So if I'm going to go and try to capture as many people as possible, this is how I would do it. I think it's the exact same way that Marvel did it. Marvel, look at the movies Marvel, right? Marvel Cinematic Universe 2009, right? No one knew who Marvel was really. They knew about Spider-Man, and that's about it. Remember that. Like, when you were a kid, think of the comic book characters you knew. You knew about Superman. You knew about Batman.
Yeah.
And you knew about Spider-Man.
Yeah,
maybe you've
like
heard of
big three.
Maybe you heard of Iron Man basis of like the song, like I Am Iron Man, but like that's like the extent of your knowledge of Iron Man, right? So if you are Marvel, how do you make it so this is like this world phenomenon where everyone wants to come see your movie? You go all in on the one niche area and you make it phenomenal. You don't need to broaden Iron Man out to be like, one, Iron Man is, I don't know, if you want to make him religious now, or you want to make it like whatever group of category you're trying to go for. Maybe he's a family man now, like he's got kids, he's relatable. Like, no, that's not what Iron Man was or is. Like, just stop it, right? Later in the comics he was, but again, you're talking about what is specific about Iron Man. It's cool tech. That's 100%.
Yes.
He can fly. He was an engineer and he can fly. And maybe this has happened to you, and you tell me this if you remember this, but you're a mechanical engineer, I'm a chemical engineer, right? I showed up for my college. It's the College of Engineering. Everyone, like, there's hundreds of people sitting down, freshman orientation. And they say, okay, if you want to be a geologist, stand up. You can go this way, and no one stands up, right? But then there's these other engineers where it's like, okay, if you want to be mechanical, you stand up and you go that way. Almost the entire auditorium stood up and went towards mechanical engineering. And wow. I was talking with people of like why they picked it. I'm telling you, like every other third person said, they're like, honestly, to be like, I just love Iron Man and it just inspired me to be a mechanical engineer. Yeah, that makes sense because that's what they made Iron Man, this phenomenal character. He was this cocky, smart guy he built stuff that you were like, that's cool. And that's what all the niche was, is you really hone in where you're not taking away from the actual comic book character. It's true to the lore. So therefore, when you go ask a comic book nerd about the movie, they can go back, this is awesome. Like, you gotta go see this. And it's still like the niche of what the foundation of that comic book story was. And so you go tell your friends, those friends go tell their friends, and everyone comes to go see it. There's a massive reason why Iron Man was successful and the Fantastic Four movies weren't, right? The Fantastic Four movies, they were trying too much. They went with Jessica Alba and they wanted to make her look sexy and, these things. Like, that's what they were really hitting on. They were really hoping for that eye candy attraction. Where Iron Man, it was core and niche to their story. So if you and I were to build a video game, that's exactly what I do, exactly what you said. Let's go pick a niche. Just go pick, it doesn't even matter what it is. Go pick a niche. even if it's a small population.
Well, I
Because
think what's important is it has to be a niche you're passionate about.
Oh,
You
yeah.
can't just say like, "Oh, I'm gonna go do, I don't know, X genre," and it's like a genre you really don't care about. I think you really got to be passionate about it, at least to an extent.
I agree 100% because I can't go talk about something I don't know anything about. So yeah, you got
Yeah,
to go be passionate about like a type of genre that you want. But again, made up world. Let's say that you and I pick a genre. Let's say it's horror games. I know you like horror games. I hate it, but let's pretend I'm really into it, right?
yeah,
But like, let's say the overall gaming population, only 3% play horror games. All right, let's say that's what the population is. Go grab all those 3% because you know how much
yes,
3% is in the gaming industry. It's a lot of freaking people. It's a lot of
yeah,
people. You know, like so you look at like, do you think there's that many people who actually play D&D and who actually like D&D? There is a large population, but not in the gaming community where it's like a huge percentage. We're talking about like total population of the gaming community who play D&D. It's not a large percentage, but you know what Baldur's Gate 3 did is they made a phenomenal video game and stuck very true to D&D. Now I do know there were some videos that talk about like, okay, it wasn't like the D&D Series 5 or Edition 5, whatever it's called, but they were still faithful to D&D, and that's what they built, and they made sure it was a really good video game. And you know what happened? All the people who like D&D bought the game, and then they told their friends, and then those friends told their friends, and then you go look up Steam charts on D&D, or I mean on Baldur's Gate 3, it's close to 1 million. That was at a peak at one point on the Steam charts, and it's like this phenomenally like best-selling video game of all time. And D&D was not trying to reach a broad audience. They were just doing what their story was. This is what we do, and we're going to make a phenomenal game at what we do. Let's stop trying to like cast this wide net to this whole broad audience. Trust me, the small niche of people we're going to go get for this video game, they will bring people in for them. And I think that's how you do a video game, is you make a phenomenal story specific to the niche that you're going for, and you really hit on that. You don't try to cater to a modern audience or a wider audience or however you're trying to like marketing wise, mathematically trying to pick more people. It's that small group of people, just like Marvel did in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and it blew up. And I think that's exactly what every successful video game recently, that's what I see them do. Like, think of just name a real successful video game lately. It is not meant for a broad audience. It's just, it hits really, really well. And it's at that specific niche, and it attracts other people. Hence why you get people come and play Elden Ring, and they don't like it. Well, why did you buy it in the first place? It's because your friend told you to go buy it. That's why you bought it in the first place, because people were bringing you over to it. So
that's such a good point.
I would do exactly what you just said. Yeah, find a niche and go hit on it.
Well, that's interesting because I had never played a From Software game. I had heard you talk about Elden Ring, and you're like, it's amazing, it's great. My brother-in-law also said that, and I just kind of had this opinion of like, okay, like it doesn't really look like something I'd normally play. I'll play it eventually. And then somebody bought it for my birthday, and I just started playing it. And I was like, holy crap, this is like really freaking good. And it sold me so hard that I, played through all of that. And that's when I started playing Dark Souls 1, Dark Souls 2, Demon Souls, and Bloodborne. Yeah. And yeah, it was word of mouth. Like, I would have never played that on my own. I would have seen all like the positive reviews, like the Game Awards, and I would have been like, oh, cool. I might play that someday.
No, I was the same way. I've never heard of a From Software game. I never played. If someone says, yeah, it's a Souls-like game, I would have no idea what they're talking about. But it was word of mouth that got out. Same thing with Baldur's Gate 3. I was like, okay, I got to give this a shot now just because of how many people are talking about this game. And the reason why so many people are talking about it isn't because they casted a wide net. It's like, oh yeah, I can play it. I love it because my girlfriend can play it, and then like my kid can play it. Like, that's not why these games get popular. Is not because it's accessible to so many people. It's because you hit like this niche, this passion of a small group of people, and it just boils over to other people, and then other people can want it, just are curious to go find out why are you passionate about this? Let me go check this out. I beat Pokemon Sword and Shield because you told me like to go get it. I would have never bought a Pokemon game ever, and it kind of helped a little bit. I just recently saw the Ryan Reynolds Pikachu, Detective Pikachu movie that came out.
Oh yeah, great
and so
movie.
that's what it is like, it's word of mouth because there's a passionate fan base who love it. And if you cater to who your niche is and you make sure you cater to that foundation, it will spill over and other people will go and buy the game. And that's where, again, I know I talk about Harry Potter all the time. I applaud Hogwarts Legacy so much. Is because when I'm playing that game, I don't even have to listen to an interview. I know who made this video game cared about Harry Potter. How do I know that? Is because the kitchen is below the Great Hall, and you tickle a pear to get into the kitchen. And there's house elves making food. No one would know that unless you were a Harry Potter fan, you read the books, and it mattered to you. Like, those are things I'm just like, yeah, these people cared about the game significantly. I have my complaints. I think outside of Hogwarts, the game kind of sucks, but that's a different story. But I don't understand this mindset. And again, I don't think there'll be an episode where I don't talk about this. I don't understand this mindset where Halo TV series decided, okay, we want to tell our own story, and we're going to just like do this random thing and like let's take off matches. You just annoyed your core fan base, who's the niche you're supposed to go after. And so what you're going to do is get people like me, convince other people, don't watch this TV show, it's terrible. And that's what's going to happen. Like, so if you want to make a successful video game or a successful TV show or whatever it is, who is your niche? And stop making it so wide. Like, be specific. Who is this for? And really cater to that small audience. And then that audience is going to do you the favor and go market it for you and get other people involved. And I think that's what you do to be successful.
Yeah. Yeah, I got to play Hogwarts Legacy. I think that might be my Christmas game. And then my sister...
we were talking about this. You haven't played Hogwarts Legacy?
No. I got it on a PlayStation discount, and my sister, I kid you not, she bugs me like every other month. She's like, did you play Hogwarts yet? And this has been ongoing since it released.
All right, let's get this cleared up. This is definitely deserved a different episode. I actually don't even know what your love of Harry Potter is. So I know you're reading the book right now. So you're reading the first book right now, but this isn't your first read through, right? Like, you've read the books before, or you haven't?
So, my Harry Potter for me started, I was in 3rd grade. I had no idea what it was. And our teacher started reading it to us. I don't know if your teachers did that where they would like read to you in elementary school. No,
my teachers didn't read. Like, they didn't
read. I feel like in 1st to 4th grade, they would read to us. And like, that's where
you're right. I remember like when you go to the library or something and everyone sits down and the teacher like sits and reads a book to you or something. I don't know. We had something like that. But we had AR points, though. That's why I got me into Harry Potter. Is we had to get the points at school, and it depend on the book you read. But sorry.
That's how I got like into The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. But so in 3rd grade, a teacher started reading Harry Potter 1 to us, and one thing I remember about it is they pronounced Hermione. They called her Hermione.
Hermione.
And so when I saw the movie, I was like confused. I was like, wait, that's not her name. But that's besides the point.
I always said Haremy. I think that's what I said in my head when I read it. I always said Haremy. Yeah.
It's not like a known name in the US, so it was very confusing.
I don't think it's a common name in England either, if I'm not mistaken. But
yeah, it might not be. I don't know. But so then I told my teacher's reading it, and I told my mom, "Oh, I have to go get this book. It's awesome." And then I read it. And then I got the 2nd book and then the 3rd one. And I think I read Harry Potter 1 through 3 and I was caught up. And so 4 wasn't out yet. And then so between 4 and 7, I was getting it like midnight release and reading it like over the next week. And I just loved it. Like, I was all about the Harry Potter life. I went to like a few midnight premieres of the movies. And I have not read the books in probably 15 years.
Wow.
So I just decided I was going to read them again. And they're really short. Like, I mean, I'm almost through Harry Potter 1 and I've only been reading for like a couple hours. So, but yeah, it's good. It's nice to pick up on the books again when I've only been watching the movies for the last few years. So get new details.
But Hogwarts Legacy, that wasn't like this itch in your brain, like, I gotta go play this game.
Not really. And I don't know why. I feel like That's a great question. Why didn't I just want to go play it?
Because you remember my story, right? Like what I did at work.
Maybe.
So
I'll remember if you tell me.
yeah, like I know, like once I said you'll remember this, which is I didn't get work off to play the game, but I sort of did, which is in our job, we have to work holidays a lot of times. So we have is something called floater holidays, which is like if I worked over Christmas, then let's say like the whole company's off for the week, but I elected to work that week. That means I've got 5 days that I go put anywhere else next year on. So that's exactly what I did. I didn't work Christmas because I wanted those 5 days on a separate day. I worked over Christmas break. And it wasn't Christmas Day I worked, but it was like the days leading up to Christmas or after Christmas, something like that. But I worked that winter break because we got a little extra cash each day we worked. And that's what, I've got a family, and that's just an extra like $40 a day or something like that I made. That was like, okay, yeah, I need this for my family. But then
you need it for Hogwarts Legacy.
come the time when I'm supposed to schedule my break or those 5 days, I could have selected over like a time when my daughter was on spring break or whatever break she gets, and we could have done a nice family vacation. That's not what I did. I picked it on the day that Hogwarts Legacy came out, and here's how nuts of a fan I am. I literally bought a PlayStation 5 6 months prior, prepping for this game because I knew there was a specific quest that was just for PlayStation 5. I then went a step further and I bought the game on PC because I wanted to play on PlayStation and I didn't want to take turns with my daughter. So I got the game on PC for her so she could play on PC while I played on PlayStation. And both of them was the pre-order deluxe edition. No, it wasn't the over the top. There was like a $300 thing with a book with a floating wand. I didn't get that. That looked too dumb to me. But I spent a lot of money basically just because I was so hyped for this game. And I think a lot of other people were. It was like, I think it was the highest selling game of 2023, and it was. I liked it a lot. Like it's a very, very well written story. Sort of. Again, I did a video on it. It's on our channel, The Verdict. I've got my opinions on it. I give my opinions on what I hope Hogwarts Legacy 2 brings us. There was I've got a few complaints, but the thing about the game, and just to maybe motivate you to play, is I would have paid $70 alone just to walk through the castle. That's how good the castle is, and that's how well done it is. And you can just see how well, like, much of Harry Potter fans they was just how well the castle is. The overall story isn't phenomenal. It's okay. The ending was disappointing to me. There's aspects of the game that are like a little funny where you can do a killing curse in front of teachers and they don't do anything. It's like little dumb things like that. So those are some things I hope that Hogwarts Legacy 2 cleans up. I was hoping for more of a student simulation, and this was more of just an RPG, an action RPG is what the game was. And so it was less like you can be out at night, that type of thing. There's no consequences being out at night except for one side mission you have to do of sneaking through the prefect's halls, but that's about it. So there's just things I wish it was a little bit different, but I was hyped for it. I bought a ton of the stuff for it, and I think you'll like it. Like you play, you'll be like, "This is cool." Like especially now that you're reading the books.
Yeah. Okay, it'll be my Christmas game. I thought of something, Kyle. We need to start our conversations with what game we're playing currently.
That's
so we should start putting that at the start of our videos.
Yep. Also a good idea.
Yeah. So I guess I kind of already said this, but I'm playing Bloodborne again right now, and I'm almost done. So I need to figure out what I'm going to play next.
Sweet.
But what are you playing?
So I have gone through 3 games really quickly, and I stopped one. I'm not going to finish it. Marvel Midnight Suns is one that I think I got like 10 hours into, and it kind of goes back to what we wanted to originally talk about, which was everything about Midnight Suns. The concept really good. It really actually reminded me of Fire Emblem, where you have a good story, you're talking to people, but then the actual game element to it is a strategy aspect. Really interesting. I love the actual game aspect to it. The problem is when you're done with the strategy aspect, and you go back. It's like this little pocket dimension where you're in Salem, Massachusetts. Actually, you are talking to a few different people, the ghosts of Agatha and things, and you've got Blade, you've got Iron Man, you've got Doctor Strange, and again, this game is definitely catered to someone like me. Like I was their target audience. I love Marvel. I love strategy games. This story was too dumb. I just didn't care. Like the dialogue was not well written, and to me, that's just what killed it. Like I just didn't care to move forward with it, and I wish there was ways where I could just go play the strategy aspect of the game alone, and that's it. And I just didn't care for the story anymore, and it just ended for me. So I was like, no, I don't care for that. So I started getting annoyed with, why are video game stories not as compelling anymore? Is it because I'm older? What is that? And I started doing like this rabbit hole of like with BioWare and all this stuff. It's kind of gave me a lot of like the ammunition that the ammo I had for today's podcast. But I started learning a lot about I'm forgetting his name now, David Gator, where he was the original author of Dragon Age, and he wrote a game called Stray Gods, where I kid you not, it's a musical RPG. It's a musical RPG, and it is I was definitely not the target audience.
Interesting.
I've never heard of that. It's Stray Gods, the musical RPG, and it was written and everything. Is that
in the title?
That's the title. It's the Stray Gods,
the
musical RPG.
This is good.
Yeah, I kid you not. And I'm telling you, Cameron, this game is phenomenal. It is so good. It's hard to call it a game because there's no it's not even like button smashing to like get with songs or whatever. It's just you select your options in the story, and you're this woman, Grace, who
it's like a visual novel.
It's a visual novel. It's almost like Telltale games. If you ever played any of those,
I haven't, but I know about them.
It's even less than that. Like it's very hard to call this a game, but you're making choices and throughout the game, and you learn a lot more about the Greek gods. The animation style is very similar to Hades, like Hades and Hades 2. I would be very surprised if whoever was the art director wasn't the same from Hades, because it has this very similar vibe to it. And you're talking about, Greek mythology and all that stuff. It's awesome. I'm telling you, Stray Gods is just awesome. I got through that quickly. I loved it. I kid you, I was enthralled. And it was, again, it wasn't for me. And it's not even a story that I'd be like, oh, like you'll tell all my friends, hey, come play this. It's so great. Come over to my house. Like, no, it's a musical. Like, it's not meant for me or my friends or anything like that. I just appreciated how good it was, how well it was written. Yeah. I appreciated how good the story was. I'm going to get my daughter into it. It's something that was definitely more targeted towards her. And I was just really impressed with it. And then I got left of like, okay, what now do I want to play? I miss a good story. Red Dead Redemption 2. I got back into that. So I'm replaying Red Dead Redemption 2 right now. And that will take up the majority of my time, but I'm the type of guy, I don't play just one game at a time. And so it's just when I get frustrated with the game, I'm going to go back to Red Dead Redemption 2. That's my new path right now.
It's your go-to. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, cool, man. Thanks for sharing. I know we were talking about remake culture. I feel like we're kind of out of time tonight, but I have so many thoughts about it, and I am so excited to talk about remake culture.
Yeah, we'll make that our principal thing, and we'll announce it at the beginning of our podcast. Like,
yes, we'll announce it at the beginning.
Yeah, that's what we'll talk about.
I'm very excited and very passionate about it.
Love it, dude. All right, so what do you think, Cam?
This was great. This is fun. It's fun just to, take an hour and chat with you every week too, because
I love it.
I feel like we haven't been doing that recently, but with the podcast, it helps. So
there we go. Dude.
It's fun.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'll catch you next week, man.
Okay. See you next week.
See you.
Verdict.